Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We are your hosts. I am Joe.
And I'm Randy.
This is episode 58 of our podcast, and the date is Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. How you doing?
Good day. Gave a test, my second test today on my calculus course I'm teaching, and a little disappointed.
Really? Yeah, considering how much it seems like par for the course.
Oh, but it was just, look, I don't know. It's just, I was disappointed. I just thought they would do better.
Dude, how they rush they push kids through school. They don't really teach them anything, and then they expect college to teach them, I think, is really the way they go these days.
That's part of it. Yeah, that's part of it. I also feel like they got really bad habits. Bad habits. I know homework was not really your bag in high school, but
I realized that was the case, and I didn't fault any class teacher or anything for being hard, because I failed to learn how to do homework.
But you got by and did pretty well
in high school, sure,
because you're smart. And unfortunately, my students, who I guess they did that as well, but when they get to college, it's like, you can't do that. It's not. And the point is not because, I think college is so super hard, but it's condensed. They get a whole year to, let's say we're doing an algebra course, right? A second year algebra course, an intermediate algebra. And in high school, you get a full year. In college, I get you for 15 weeks. And you meet 30 times in a semester. So it's like, how the heck do you think you can get away not doing homework? And you got a handful of super bright kids that's seen a lot of it before they gets by, but gets by is not, even close. Then a lot of students that used to be pretty good in high school, they fail because they use that strategy.
You have to be really probably near to or actual genius level to be able to do that in college as well.
You really do. It's just the pacing. Unless you're just, unless math is really your thing. But even then, I know those sort of students and they're impressive, but they don't usually do great. The ones that try to pull that, well, first of all, if they're an intermediate algebra as a freshman, they're not too far advanced in math. But even the really good ones, they don't get what they should get. They usually pass or get a B- when they should be getting A's. But oh well, they seem happy enough. So, and in the end, no skin off my nose. Do what you got to do, dude.
What percentage of your class are they just filling a slot in their curriculum for their degree?
That's rare. Math is kind of the boogeyman in college.
No, what I mean is, how many people are there pursuing math, and how many people are taking math because it's part of their curriculum overall?
90 to 98% are taking it because they have to. It's a have to class.
Yeah, it's a have to.
Yeah, it's a hoop to jump through. The truth is, my science and engineering majors and stuff, they're happy to do it. Well, they don't get too butthurt about doing it. It's the ones that are, liberal arts or some other major that's outside of STEM. And I hate to say butthurt. I get it. You're doing something like you're going to be a poetry guy and go for a PhD in poetry. Why do you got to take calculus? That's kind of ridiculous.
It is. And I understand calculus is something that can help you think logically.
Sure it can.
Just like a lot of things.
So can arithmetic, actually.
Sure. Yeah. But if your chosen profession and you show ability in it, and even if you're not great at it, but this is what you want to do. I want to be an artist.
Right.
Who is a bunch of folks sitting on high telling you got to take calculus? What's up with that? That's kind of dumb.
Well, it probably wouldn't be calculus. It'd probably be like a college algebra course, which is still dumb. I would think, especially artists should take like a low-level geometry course.
Well,
perspective and think about it could be help. If you're going to make them take any math at all, it would be some kind of, or honestly, a high-level topology course, but that's next level, dude. But it would give them some ideas of surfaces. But honestly, artists, it's a very different, they don't need me to tell them.
No. Back in the day, artists.
Surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared.
Yeah. Back in the day, artists got patrons.
Mm-hmm.
And if they couldn't find a patron because they really weren't good artists, they would eventually have to find a different profession.
Yeah.
Or if they had a buddy or just were favored amongst the rich people, even if their art wasn't that good, they could still have an income. We're talking back in centuries ago.
Sure.
That doesn't work like that right now.
No.
Well, it can. I don't know if you need to have an art degree to have art shown at a gallery. And as long as you have a bunch of folks that like your art, just like if you can find a bunch of folks on the internet to like your podcast, it doesn't necessarily matter whether you've had to have a degree
in podcasting.
Doesn't matter. And you don't necessarily need to be great. You just need to gather folks that appreciate what you do, whether it's objectively good or not.
Like I imagine many of the RPG guys aren't really enjoying us talking about college.
Right. So let's get to the
on that. Not interested. Thanks.
Yeah. Art, who cares? The intricacies of higher education, who cares? Especially nowadays when a lot of us look at it like it's anathema to
actual education.
Yeah. All right. So we have a bunch of call-ins and a few emails. What I'm going to do is last episode, last week I said that I'd neglected some. And I said I would take care of it. And I didn't.
Right.
And right. And then I realized that even though I thought I had taken care of it on our show, I'd actually neglected others. I am really horrible. I'm a bad person.
Don't. You're like up here. You can't even see my hand. You are so high on a pedestal to me. I can't believe. Well, even these two mistakes, I still can't see you. They're so high in the clouds.
So there are many sources of commentary that we've gotten, and for the longest we weren't getting any, so I just ignored things. So we have comments.
Probably won't work. Probably we're not getting much now because they're like they ask for emails and they don't even answer them.
Right. And so we got some commentary on our website.
Okay.
And DM Dastardly Dad.
Ooh, like that name.
Commented back in September. Sorry, Dad. When I have players roll against stats, I use a D6 method. For easy tasks, I'm editorializing that. I require a 3d6 or 4d6 to roll under your stat. Harder tasks require 5d6 or 6d6 or even higher.
Ooh.
For example, to move a boulder requires the player to roll 6d6 and roll under the player's strength. So that's interesting.
Yeah, because you're very likely not to succeed.
I told him, I replied to him and said, that's interesting, like I just
very
said.
Interesting. I like that.
I will make sure to bring it up in the next podcast. So I made myself out to be a liar.
Oh, you responded back in September?
Yeah.
He's like, you lie bag.
Yeah.
Well, if he's still hanging around,
we're sorry, I'm a liar.
That's a very cool way to do roll under.
Yeah. We also had Greg the Golem.
Oh, okay.
At Yahoo, or Greg T.
Yep.
I had made a comment about sniper. Sniper, it couldn't possibly be too much more than a mile. Yeah, I was wrong. According to Greg T, who's probably the sniper expert.
Probably.
Longest successful sniper shot is currently 2.2 miles.
Holy crap.
So that would probably be somebody on a perch somewhere so that, they don't have a whole lot of intervening land, like
picking my thumb up, checking the air speed,
like hills and stuff like that, buildings. And yeah, has a scope that you wouldn't believe. So
and you
do they might even have some GPS type hookup for them so that they can see.
Speaking of math, you're doing some physics and math there.
Oh, sure.
Even that bullet over that range is going to be dropping.
Yeah, because you're not pointing your weapon
directly
right
at the person. Object. No,
yeah.
2.2 miles.
Even I wonder what the curvature of the Earth underneath that 2.2 miles is. Probably not that great, but
No, it wouldn't be that great, but it's yeah,
that's not nothing.
and not nothing, but it's you may not have to. You probably got to count more for gravity, airspeed, and all kinds of other crap. I mean, I've seen
Right,
those
and the bullet dropping after so long. Right.
Yeah. Wow. 2.2 miles. Thanks, Greg. That's crazy.
And from Wooden Nickels 64,
Oh, really?
love you guys.
That would be my wife.
Yeah. So thank you, Wooden Nickels 64, for the love.
Sweet.
We also get some commentary on our videos on YouTube, but
Okay.
I've responded or liked most of that, if not all of it. Plus, we get a fair amount of spam out there and here.
Yeah. So last week we got something from Trump. That was sweet.
Yes. Appreciate. No,
Yes.
don't really. Anyway, so we're past that. Let us go to Collins.
Okay. Hit it. Dun, 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 dun. It's on alignment. I would think that would start a kerfuffle. What's going on, Joseph?
It would help if I was looking in the correct spot.
Yeah, so this is very exciting to listen to. We're listening to Joe think.
You don't want to listen to that.
It's too impressive. Too impressive for words. Oh boy, we got some good ones.
All righty. So yes, here we go.
Hey there guys, it's Johnny from the Red Dice Diaries. Oh, that Jubilex figure for $70. Someone must have been tripping when they slapped that price tag on. I mean, the translucent green plastic is cool and it'd save on a paint job, I suppose. But as you guys say, it's effectively a big blob of snot, really. Now, I'm not a big minis person since I find the price of them ridiculous in general, not to mention storage, transport, yada yada yada. But that does seem well ridiculous.
Agreed.
Truth, John, truth. Crazy. Snot Lord. I like that.
Hey there, John again from the Red Dice Diaries. Yeah, as for the comics thing, as with comics, as in films, unfortunately the whole identity politics thing seems to be taking centre stage rather than just telling an interesting story. I mean, to be honest, I could give a shit who Superman is sticking his faster than a speeding bullet in if the story is interesting. But to be honest, I checked out of comics ages back. It felt like the inventiveness and the quality of the stories has been on the slide for a while, not to mention the price has been on the upward slide. Everything seems to be a bit slice of life now, which is fine if you like that sort of stuff. It's not ready for me though, but as I say, to be honest, it doesn't really bother me that much or affect me, since I've not putted out any Dosh and comics for ages, and even then it tends to be compilations of old stuff. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the episode, guys. Take it easy, I'll catch you soon.
Okay, so he made a good point. Do you know how much a single standard comic costs now, Joe?
I haven't bought one in a while. It's around $10.
No, a standard like the 32-page standard.
Yeah, I was good. That was my guess. Maybe
Oh
$5.
wow. No, it's $3.99 to $4.99 though.
Okay.
Per book. That's
Right,
crazy.
right. So if you wanted to have, like back in the day, you wanted to have all the Spider-Man titles, and they were all $4 a piece, and there were how many? There were like 10 titles at one point. I think
At one point, yeah.
that would be a serious investment.
That's monthly, dude.
Monthly, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's right. From what I understand, I mean, you know better because you've read more recently than I.
Mhm.
But from hearing from other folks that aren't part of the crowd that's supposedly digging these comics, the quality has gone down. You can have many panels and not even any dialogue or anything really happening, just lots of panels and nothing going on. Not a whole lot happen in the whole comic. Yeah, you're paying $4, 20, 30 pages, and
What was it? Was it you that sent me a page where it showed, or was online where it showed Colossus and I think Kitty Pryde talking, and they had like 30 thought bubbles, maybe 40.
That wasn't me.
No, it was like 20. It was like 20 thought bubbles on one page. And so I was listening, I think, Eric July, but it was like, that person just doesn't know how to construct a page.
Right.
It was just two people, and it was full of thought bubbles all over the place. And I was like, that's really weird. I mean, I remember having several in a panel, but that kind of, I don't know, looked really, I guess the word looked busy. Anyway.
Yeah, back in the day, I always chuckled when it had quotation marks around the thought bubble or the text inside of it, and it said in the original German or something like that. And I'm like, what? Okay, that's silly. In the original German. I guess that's the proper way to say it, but it just seems weird.
Yeah.
John again. Yeah, regards conflict-free D&D, I always laugh when I hear something like this. Since most games are pretty full of conflict. I mean, not just like physical combat, could be a struggle against the environment, competing for resources, trying to outmaneuver someone in a social situation, or any number of other sort of ways that conflict can come in. And that's because it's one of the things that makes the game compelling and interesting. If there's no struggle, there's no conflict, you know, what's going on in the game that's making it good? A lot of the time, it also seems to be based on the erroneous idea that when combat starts, role-playing stops. Whereas I know, certainly in my sessions, you have people describing their blows, acrobatic maneuvers, trying to use the scenery, coordinating with their allies, and that's all roleplay as far as I'm concerned.
And interesting dialogue there in the combat.
Yeah, I mean, I do that a lot. I mean, it happened this past weekend playing in the mud. Yeah. Joe's character was knocked out, and I tried to talk to him, but I did it more for Joe was like, I'm knocked out. And I'm like, yeah, but this character was doing it to make it so everybody, I wanted everybody else to know they had made a mistake. We'll get to that later. That was funny.
I mean, I say all kinds of pithy things like, come get some.
I always have my villains do some kind of big monologue.
Sure, so, which I always try to interrupt. That always makes you feel good.
I love that. I had a great paragraph, man. Fine, roll initiative.
For example, in a recent session of my Smoke and Snow game, we ran, the players fought some ghouls, and the barbarian uncovered a vampire hiding in a fake bottom in a wooden cart. It was daytime, so the vampire caught fire in the sun, and the player used garlic and his sword to prevent the creature from escaping, allowing it to be consumed by the light of the sun. This was in the middle of a combat, no dice were rolled. It was a great little role-play moment. So I don't think role-playing and conflict are sort of mutually exclusive, to be honest. And I think conflict is one of the things that makes the game interesting, whether that's physical combat or something else entirely, as I said in my previous message. If you don't have any conflict at all, well, I'm not really sure what's going on with the game. Anyway, I'm going to get back to the episode, guys. Take it easy, and I'll catch you soon.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, this is all in reference to last week. There was that article about no nonviolent gaming, and actually no competition, no winning, just
talk about your feelings.
Whatever. Yeah, I guess.
I don't know. Look, if folks like it, do it. But to me, I'd be like, I'm out. This is boring as crap. Unlike John, I actually really like combat. I mean, I'm good with social challenges and, trying to, battle for resources and make plans and deal with political machinations from time to time. But generally, I like my games to have some knockdown, drag out fights.
Sure.
Yeah.
Excitement.
Yep.
All right. Next up is Jason.
Hey, Jason here. Listen to you and Taylor talk about Session Zero. Well, him calling in, you responding. I definitely understand the time crunch, especially my schedule these days. That said, I think one thing where Session Zero really works, especially for a longer term campaign, is it lets you get, I'm not saying you should have 20 some page backstories. Personally, I'm in favor of composing your backstory as a rock ballad and singing it to your GM. But point is, I think it's easier to synchronize your backstories and synchronize the characters and have a cohesive team, especially in the games where you need abilities to balance off each other. I think that doing a Session Zero, doing joint character creation, where everybody's together and riffing off each other, is the best way to do that. So, just a thought.
Yes, Jason, I heard that ballad. That was Boss. He literally sang his background on one of his podcasts to who's the guy? He GMs Jason a lot.
It must be Joe.
No, not Joe. I think Joe might have played. No, the other guy, I want to say Charles. That's not it. It starts with the C.
GMologist,
Maybe.
that guy.
Maybe. I don't know. No, I can't. He's a pretty cool guy.
Carl.
Carl, yeah. Carl calls in and he's saying that to Carl. Jason, it was phenomenal, dude. I got the horns up, baby. Rock on.
Yeah, well, I haven't listened to that particular one yet. I caught up. I haven't caught up. There's a bunch.
That's a must.
Yeah.
Jason is not lying. I agree with you, dude. That's a great way to do background.
Nobody wants to hear me sing.
That was good.
Nobody wants
That's
that.
a must listen, dude. Well done, Jason. Well done.
Okay, I'm stopping just before the definition of OD&D alignment is read. I really like alignment as a code of conduct, the way you're setting it out. I think that's valuable and helpful in helping the players, get in the role of the character and to keep, having some kind of not verisimilitude, but, some kind of structure and some kind of continuity with the way that character's played, right? Before you give all your definitions, I will say I do prefer the Palladium alignment. And that said, I like the 3 alignment system as far as in the more Cockian version where you're talking about you're aligned with one great, there are real entities out there of chaos and order and things like that, and you're aligned with one set of gods or aligning with another set of gods in their beliefs, which may or may not have humanity's best interests in mind.
Yeah, I'm not sure that one of them did actually, Don Blass or Ariok or the others. I think they were more about themselves anyway.
Right. It's a pretty dark setting. So yeah. That's definitely one way to do it, where you have allegiances more than you do the lawful good and etc. Oh, it looks like John Allen is interrupting Jason. Hold on.
Oh, look at John.
Callus interruptus.
What's your alignment? Hungry. Nice one, guys. Well, I know what I'm going to be answering whenever one of these what's your alignment quizzes goes around Facebook. Take it easy. I'm going to get back to the episode.
Speaking of that, you said that, Joe, last week. Hungry. Mm-hmm. I think I read somewhere when I was searching out, online for different things for the last podcast. I actually think I found a place where they had hungry as an alignment.
Oh, that's good.
I'm going to try to find that again. Even though you said it, that was hilarious. I just couldn't remember it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey guys, thanks for solving alignment for me. Really appreciate it. Yeah, in the end, like I said before, I like the Palladium system. Although in the right world, I could see the Moorcock thing where you have gods of, order and gods of chaos, and you have to align yourself. I'm down with that too. But I think you did a good conversation over the whole thing. Not much to add. I agree that I'm not big into throwing a bunch of moral quandaries in the game just to cause people to have moral quandaries. I do think that paladin should be lawful good and held to that, and same with priests. They should be held to their whatever their religion is. And there should be enough things happening in a regular game to give them a chance to go off the rails, right? I don't think you have to throw in a bunch of things to screw them up. I think enough things will come up naturally. So, good coverage. Good job.
I think my moral quandary comment comes from, I think that we make some assumptions, and DMs can do that as well, on what makes a good quandary. And while it might sound good in their head, sometimes it's just, it's kind of, I don't know, contrived. Like the baby goblin thing. There's some baby goblins. Well, what is a baby goblin? Are we going to assume that a baby goblin, it's a goblin. It's not a baby human. It's not going to be the same as a baby human.
It's not going to grow up to be a human.
Right. So it's not going to, its origin isn't going to be anything like, well, apart from it's been birthed. And I posted somewhere with the title Baby Goblins, a little snippet of video from Galaxy Quest. Remember those little alien dudes?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think like orcs and hobgoblins and goblins will all have a variation of the little baby that looks cute
It's got teeth
from a distance.
Right.
You get close enough,
They eat you.
yeah, because it would because they're monsters.
Well, I agree, but I don't know if that's contrived. I think it's overdone. I think if you had never faced it and the DM said, hey, I'm going to have them find this. I remember I ran a module once and they had the nursemaids and the baby goblins or orcs. I didn't even think about it, but you guys were the ones that were like, oh crap, did we kill the babies? I remember that. And I was like, I never even thought about it. I figured you guys would be like, honestly, we were young. I was thinking, well, they'll kill the nursemaids and move on because the babies are no threat. I wasn't worried about you killing them or not killing them.
Right.
But when you said it, I was like, I didn't say it this way, but I was like, that is a quandary. But I think it's overdone. I don't think unless creatures, we said this too, maybe orcs just pop up from the ground, fully grown, ready to kick butt and take names.
Or
that would be kind of cool. Huh?
Corrupted other humans or humanoids become them through their corruption, which I prefer them popping up from the ground. That's dwarves.
Huh?
That's dwarves.
Oh, dwarf, my bad. Elves come out of seeds, fully grown from trees.
Already aloof.
Fully aloof.
Fully aloof.
Vegan.
Jason, you better watch it, dude. I know
He's lucky he sends us a check every month.
That's right, dude.
While I am a fan of co-ed activities, I think there is a place for an all guys retreat, and I think boys need that time in all guys retreat where they go out with men and kind of get brought in, to the fold. And I'm not talking anything bad here, but seriously, I think that boys need time away from their moms and need time with guys to learn guy stuff. So all guys retreat's an important thing, and especially if you can do it somewhere, if you're out in a cabin or out away somewhere, then get some hands-on skills, construction, repair, doing different things, and get some, kind of do-it-yourself know-how that they might not be getting at home. So, not saying women can't do that stuff too, because obviously they can, but I think there's definitely a place for an all-guys retreat, and there's also definitely a place for co-ed stuff, because life would be much more boring without co-ed stuff. So, talk to you later.
Yes.
100% agree. Yeah, and I think there's things, we have a cabin con, we have a 18 minimum for age, and we got a couple of cabin con attendees that have children, and I know at least 2 of them can't wait to be old enough to come to cabin con, the boys, so they're very excited.
All righty. Next up is Taylor.
Hey guys, this is Taylor of Cleric's Way Ringmail. Just calling in to let you know I did receive the check. He tells me his name is Hansa. He seems like a wonderful guy. I already got him rolling up an elf for weapons, wits, and wizardry. Also, right about this time, I am subscribing to the YouTube channel, subscriber number 81. RE, your contest. I have in the past recused myself from contests that I've won or channels that I've won stuff from the first time around. So if you want to flesh out your D14 and tack me on there, I will not stop you. But at the same time, I also want to encourage participation. I want other folks to win so that it makes the general excitement go on up. So I leave it to your discretion, and I do believe I still owe you an unboxing episode for the first set.
He did get it though. He told me he got it, so that's cool. I'm really intrigued to see Taylor, what you think of my little prize, my little bonus that's in there. And
you shouldn't be sending naked pictures of yourself to people. It's no good.
Taylor's special. He deserves a special bonus. No, man. But we'll see if I don't know what he thinks of it. So it's not as good as the actual prize he won.
We are now up to 88.
Rock on. 12 more. We're giving some crap away, baby.
Yes,
I'm doing the horns a lot tonight.
Yes, you are.
That's not really abnormal for me though, right, Joe?
No, you're so metal.
I am totally metal. Metal mathematician, baby. You know it.
Regarding thief skills, it may be that the reason for thief skills to be so low at the beginning there is for the same reason that your chance to hear noises or to open stuck doors are pretty low. In old school games or old school parties, at least, or from what I've heard, I was not alive for first edition, but I digress. These parties consisted of far more players than the modern one. You may have 6, 10 people plus hirelings. So when you have a 1 in 6 chance or a 15% chance, that's a lot easier to roll if you have 4 people trying it compared to the modern party where it's one and done.
That is a good point. They were used to. I mean, I think the biggest group I ever played with was 10 that I've run personally. But we didn't do much with hirelings back in the day.
Right. Yeah. You know, he brings up that point, and it makes me think of something I mentioned. I'm not sure if I mentioned it on an episode or just, you know, us talking. With regard to this kind of stuff, you know, I was trying to come up with a more flavor explanation to, you know, justify it within a game world, why it would be so low. You know, you get taught the rudiments and then kicked out on your hind tail.
Right.
But his explanation makes it seem like the early creators of the game designed it that way, perhaps. And I was wondering how much of the early game was, maybe it's a little study in being pedantic, but whether it was designed or just innovated. So they just made stuff and said, hey, this seems good, let's go with it. We've played it a bit and it seems all right, so let's just go with it. Instead of having a particular end point game wise in mind already.
Well, we can't know 100% sure unless someone called in that actually was working on those games, but there had to be some design work because they were game designers already. Gygax already had a game or two under his belt, not a role-playing game,
right,
but he had games, and there had been war games forever and board games forever. So there were game designers, but that's a good question, whether or not role-playing was truly,
because it kind of just emerged, and there's arguments about whether or not D&D was truly the first RPG.
Right.
There's a couple of others that came out somewhere around the same time frame.
I think the Brownstein game they talk about in Secrets of Blackmoor is the only one that could maybe make a claim. It had, because I did have some role-playing elements to it. You did take on the role of a character, but as far as a published game, 100% D&D. D&D was first.
Okay, I've heard some different.
Oh,
I'd love to know. Brownstone, it was something else.
Wasn't Brownstein? Oh, well, let me know then, Joe.
Brownstein.
Search that out. I'll do some research. I actually got some books that I can search into them. From my research.
Regarding alignment, I try to get out, but they just keep pulling me back in. Now, in the LBBs, there is a list of monsters that are typically of alignment X or Y. But the big thing, I think the writers of the game expected you to have read the material in Appendix N. Don't know what chaos is? Read Anderson. Read Moorcock. That, I think, was the purpose of Appendix N in subsequent editions, or subsequent books. So, knowing that they couldn't create that for you in the confines of a rule book, they shared with you what had inspired them in the first place. And I think now that I've said this, later on in the episode, Randy picked up on this too. Team Randy.
So, you know what's interesting? He made a comment about Appendix N. You know, Taylor, I don't know. By the time Gygax made the first edition DM's guide, I think is that the first appearance? I better be careful. I think that might be the first appearance of Appendix N. I could be wrong.
First edition
Dungeon Master's Guide is the first time I remember seeing it. Doesn't mean it was, nope. There might have been some books. I think they assumed a shared experience, which I guess that's what Taylor's saying, that they assumed they read the book. So everybody thought they had the same language. I mean, you're talking about a game. I think early on, they weren't expecting thousands of people to buy it. they were hoping hundreds would buy it.
Right.
And then they were found, hundreds of thousands to millions have eventually bought this dang game. So yeah, interesting. I don't know what their approach was. At least he's on my team, but I think he's going to switch teams here in a minute. I have a feeling.
Yeah, there's not an appendix N equivalent in the rule cyclopedia that I can tell.
Right, but there is the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if I saw something in the OD&D book. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Booklets.
I don't have a whole lot of those. I have
no, I'm talking about the original like white box. I have a PDF.
Oh, the white box. I don't have the white box.
Yeah, I only have a PDF. I'm not paying $1,000 for that.
Right.
Another aspect of alignment that I challenge you to think about. Think about alignment in the context of religion. I can't, on quick Googling, find Dave Arnson's religious persuasion, but omitting that, we can contextualize the game from the perspective of a Jehovah's Witness, a la the other half of that authorship, Gary. Alignment language, lawful, it's Latin. That's what the book was written in. Chaotic, that's, I don't know, Pig Latin, whatever the opposite of Latin is. When alignment is in the context of religion, when alignment is about the cosmic struggle, it makes a lot more sense. From that context, it also makes sense why law can fight against itself. See the Great Schism, the Great Reformation, but that's another episode.
Dave Arneson's religious persuasion. I'm going to need to look that up. Is that what he said? Persuasion?
Yeah.
So, alignment and religion. So is your argument there, Taylor, something in regards to alignment language?
Yeah. He was saying alignment as religion and then having it tied to alignment language as well. So
that would be interesting.
The thing, my big problem with alignment language is it seems silly, but then again, there's so much that you could say that about in the game, flying around.
Flying dragons is silly.
Yeah. So in a game, in this kind of environment, there might be some weird language that is based on your worldview, not that such that someone with a different worldview, if you use this language, it could be, you could even use it to talk right next to somebody and they don't know what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, and
like
imagine
thieves, like thieves camp.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. I was like, well, imagine you had 9 religions in the world. They were the 9 alignments, and those alignment languages are just the very secret, specialized jargon that the very faithful use, and maybe they speak when they use the words. There's magical power in those words. I mean, in a campaign where words power, and you have things like true names and secret names,
right?
Maybe that those words would call to a. So imagine I'm a priest of Pelor, and I'm speaking lawful good, right? And you come along, you're lawful good, but you've never heard of Pelor. But the things I'm saying literally call to your being. In a magical world, that could be the case.
Right.
So that could be an interesting way to do something. I don't know.
Right. I don't know that how much detail alignment languages were talked about in the old books.
I don't recall much.
Except that they were mentioned.
Right. I remember the first time I read it, I was like, what?
I wonder if there's Dragon Magazine articles on them. That would be interesting to find out.
With that as context, I'm going to switch over to Team Joe regarding balance. Balance is dumb. You are lawful, chaotic, or unaligned, especially considering an alignment, the old editions, where there are cosmic forces behind it. Either one side is right or the other. Either one deity will win or the other. That's how duality works, and that's the purpose of alignment. It was conceived to create a duality, a conflict. And if you think about it, you can produce a balance, but you're not going to do that for the sake of balance. You're just ticking off both sides at the same time. You've got to profit from it somehow. And that's, I think, too, one of the reasons why I don't like Moorcock. Moorcock is a nihilist. He's taking a stance, regardless of chaos or order, in his milieu, results in the annihilation of Earth and the species. And that's dumb.
You know what's funny? I don't, as much as I loved, I was a phase of my life, late teens, early 20s, where I loved Moorcock. But when I tried to go back and read him, I kind of get it. I mean, his books are super. Dude, they were emo before emo was cool because everything's going straight to hell and there's nothing you can do about it. I use the reference. What if there was? Taylor made a good point here. What if there's a God? What if a God? Like we talk about how a neutral had to be an alien intelligence, so a deity that enjoys balance, but they're not necessarily. I mean, they just like things the way they are. They like a relationship between the two diametrically opposed forces. And he may be okay when good's winning a little and evil's winning a level, but if it gets way out of hand, he might jump in because he liked the previous balance that was there. That doesn't mean it was a perfect balance. Maybe in this world, good is mostly on top, but every once in a while, evil gets the edge, and if it gets too far, he jumps in and helps the good guys. But that would be a weird creature.
Yeah. So if you want a study in balance, listen to the song "The Trees" by Rush.
The
Trees.
Okay. All right.
Having said that, I just got to the part where y'all say creatures not sapient enough to make decisions are unaligned. Got a bit of a chuckle out of this. Still calling it in. Non-sapients unite. So in Weapon, Wits, and Wizardry, a belay would be aligned wild. Thank you very much.
Hey, man. Roll how you want, Taylor, even if it's wrong. That's cool. I like
Last call for today. Thinking about baby goblins. Well, I don't know about you, but I am a big fan of veal. And veal is technically baby cow. So...
He left that go.
Veal is fine.
The title of the message is Goblin Veal. That sounds a little disgusting.
Goblin veal. Oh boy.
You're an odd one, Mr. Taylor.
That's why we like him, though.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, that's call-ins for tonight.
Yeah, thanks, guys. That was great. So alignment got people thinking. That's good.
Well, alignment, you could probably have just a fine game and have alignment not matter a bit at all.
Well, I told you I'm thinking of us revisiting this at some point. Maybe we'll bring back the idea of a shorty, or maybe it'll be a full-blown episode. Or what happens in D&D if you toss alignment? If we could, discuss the consequences of literally saying alignment's not a thing. I don't think anything special happens because you still have good and bad. I mean, you can't help it. You have people doing things you think are good and things that are bad. But if you just throw out the actual alignment system, I don't think D&D suffers.
I mean, it can be mostly ignored.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you have a paladin in the group, the paladin can have a code, like I was saying, can just have a code, and he does his thing, and everybody else just does their thing.
I'm talking about the mechanic alignment doesn't throw out the idea of an evil being or a good being.
No, I don't think you need that much structure to support those concepts.
No, I don't think so. All right.
But it's cool either way. You can have alignment running in your campaign and in the game, and it'd be meaningful and have interesting encounters and other things happen as a result of having it. And you can have a game without it and still have interesting things happen.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Cool.
So say I. All right. So next up, let's see. We kind of went in a little bit of opposite order here, maybe. Okay. But anyway, so Superman.
Yeah, he's back in the news again.
Yeah. Superman doesn't like, I mean, is it Superman or is it the Superman saying this mess?
I don't know. It's the saying that goes on, like we've all heard truth, justice, and the American way.
Right.
That was, I read that article that I posted, and they talked about those phrases have changed through the different TV iterations from the 40s all the way up to Lois and Clark with Dean Cain and the comics. And now they're calling it truth, justice, and a better tomorrow. And, at first I was like, ugh. And I was like, wait a minute, who cares? I mean, I know they're people are going to say, oh, it's anti-American. But if you look, the guy in that article is kind of right. That moniker, truth, justice, and blah, blah, has changed over time. And I liked what Jim Lee said. This fits more of the stories we're telling. And when I say I like it, I mean, he's right. It does fit what you're telling, because you clearly don't care about traditional American ways or American values. That's obvious. So make your changes. At least it fits.
Right. And, there's that thing that people will call conspiracy theory. That's clearly not, because everybody says it.
Right.
All the governments of the world practically build back better.
Yep.
A better tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a relationship, like the spice. There's a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't for the heavily left-leaning crowd in comics, I wouldn't think that way.
No, I wouldn't, but they kind of forced us to.
Yeah, but it comes to my mind. It may not be. It may be just what it says, a better tomorrow.
Right. And if it is, great. It's not a huge deal. I just thought I'd comment because,
Yeah.
we've been running a comics thing periodically. So
Yeah. So, Contest of Champions, how goes it? I already mentioned we've got 88 YouTube subscribers. We need 12 more. We've been going at a pretty good clip over the last month. So we went from under 50 to 50 and now up to 88 pretty quick, I think. I mean, we're not, it's microscopic in comparison to what people think big followings on YouTube are.
It's a percentage increase that's significant for us. And I think we've got your appearance on Legion of Myth and Legion of Myth themselves giving us a little shout outs from now and again to thank us out there a little bit more. And that's cool. Taylor made a comment about, he's willing to recuse himself. We've had a winner since he was in there last, so I'm inclined to put him back in there. We may put our last winner to have him step out, the Hockey Puck Jr. fella, just because he just won most recently. So I feel like Taylor's won, Hockey Puck won, but Taylor can go back in this time. That's where I'm leaning towards. So I'm hoping I have to roll a D100. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, nowhere near. We've only got 16 people in the email.
I have a D16 for sure.
Yeah,
I definitely have a D16. So that's cool.
Yeah, so it's currently under 25%. I didn't do the exact numbers, but it's under 25% participation. But what can you do?
No, but people may not be interested in the stuff we're giving away.
Yeah, I know some people are like, what is his name? Max was saying, hey, if you guys would just give something other than Pathfinder or 5th edition stuff.
Well, I did. Yeah. Here's the stuff. This is Infernal, the battle game. That's different.
Yeah, having listened to several of his of the Legion of Myth episodes, he doesn't like board games. So you've hit all the things he doesn't like.
Well,
without even trying.
Well,
you should be proud.
I don't dislike board games, but I'm kind of with him. If I have a choice, board games are last on my list to play.
Right.
So what about Thaco the Clown, dude? Everybody turn that. I know it's kind of yawny. I mean, it's okay. And me and Joe were talking before we got on here. That's the character they have in whatever of the Witchlight module for 5e, that blast that kind of, it's clearly poking a little fun at grognards. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's kind of weak if it is making fun of grognards. But I listened to Legion of Myth a little bit before we got on here. And they kind of were saying yawn, not a big deal. I'm feeling a little, I won't say I'm butthurt, but I can see how you could be a little annoyed by it. But you know what? We make fun of them.
Yeah, we do.
So fair's fair. That's fine. And really, truth is, it's not directed at us. I mean, we don't do Thaco, but we are probably considered grognards.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if it's a slam against us, if they're saying Thaco was a bad thing, it's really the left can't meme moment, because if you're going to, if your complaint is Thaco, if Thaco is a complaint at all, and it may not be that this this NPC character in the module represents Thaco being bad,
Right.
but the character's pretty sad as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know from what I've heard. He's not that thrilling of a character. But if this is a dig at Thaco is bad somehow. I mean, they're really poking their own eye out.
Dude, and the truth is, if you want to be really fair about it, Thaco was fine.
Yeah.
Thaco was actually a massive improvement in terms of space. You went from all those crazy matrices to bam, one number on your piece of paper. That was like going from, worrying about all the modifiers and how you do grapple and how you do this in 3E, and Pathfinder goes CMB, CMD.
Right.
I mean, it was better than that. It was one number. Thaco, you know what you have to hit. Every time you get an edge got him, your Thaco goes down. Now, you could argue, negative armor class suck. I'd listen to that argument. I don't think it sucks. I do think it's less intuitive than positive armor class, but there's nothing difficult about it. But yeah, whatever. So, okay. It's like you poked me. You poked a little. Okay, cool. Well done. I'm impressed.
Well done. You don't like math.
Yeah.
So, moving along.
Yes.
To main topic.
Whoa,
Is it main topic time?
It is, man.
It is. It's time to level up. We're going to be talking about experience because we have a bit of it. We're gray. So we're talking about the phrase level up. There's a definition that Randy found out on Google because he doesn't care if Google is tracking his searches because you never know what's going to derive out of this one.
Oh yeah.
They have your number, Randy. They got your number.
I'm going to type it in the internet and just give them my number.
Yeah. So the definition of leveling up in games derived from Dungeons and Dragons, an accumulation of a sufficient number of experience points increases a character's level, a number that represents a character's overall skill and experience. To level or level up means to gain enough experience to reach the next level.
In a broad sense, my idea was advancing your character. That was the broad idea. So that's what, do you think that's what level up means practically, right? When
that is advancing.
Numbers, I get to change numbers on my character sheet to make my character better in some way, shape, or form.
This is as opposed to perhaps more character development that people like to do these days. That I kind of don't care about a whole lot. a little bit.
I think it's cool when you look at your character. If you play a wizard from 1st to 12th level, and you think of all the things that he's done. Maybe he initially started out, look, I'm this mage. I don't really care too much about what I summon. My job is to bind things to my will and make it happen. And maybe his experiences, he ends up fighting a demonologist. He ends up dealing with one of his colleagues in his party, makes a deal with the devil and ends up, causing a big, that's part of his career path. And then by 12th level, he's like, you know what? Maybe there is crap out there I just shouldn't mess with. That's a character development path. That's about all I would care about. And so by 12th level, people are like, hey, Bolsavar, why aren't you talking about summoning everything? I've learned the lower planes. I don't want to mess with that crap. And so that's okay. That's as far as, your character's personality, and not personality, but, just his thoughts have changed and quote unquote grown, right? I'm okay with that. But that's not what I'm talking about. This is kind of a personal question for you, because it's hard to ask myself this. I think the answer is yes for me. Is leveling up necessary for you to enjoy a game? By that I mean, do you have to be able to level up periodically?
I think some advancement in the game. I think I would enjoy a game less if there wasn't no sense of advancement. Now, one shots you don't advance, but when one shots can be fun, but I don't want to do one shots all the time.
Right.
But I like the idea of advancement. And I think I have less fun in games that don't have it. Not that I've played any. I think that's one of the things that keeps me from certain games is there's no advancement here.
Yeah, there are definitely some games. I couldn't find a lot of them, but I did notice that like Traveler, I don't know if that's still true. There's so many versions of Traveler. We should ask our buddy Eric C to tell us about that. But someone said on the interwebs, on Reddit, so that's nothing to count on, that Traveler doesn't have any real advancement.
I remember that because I tried. Remember, I tried. I got the box set a long time ago. I still have. I don't know if the box set I have now is that box set or if it's
the little black
replacement. One? Yeah, black. This is the old. It's the old version.
Oh, cool.
Maybe I should pull it out.
Yeah, grab it. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm taking out my headphones, so don't talk.
Okay, I'm just going to keep talking to the whoever's listening. So yeah, I was trying to. The big question was, what does it mean to level up? How valuable is it? What kind of pace should we have? We're going to discuss this tonight. In particular, what should it look like going from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 in, say, a D&D game or some game that has levels versus a game like Savage Worlds where you go from novice to seasoned. That sounds like the same, but it's really not. So, Joe,
you're talking to?
I'm talking to people that are out there. They want to hear my dulcet tones.
There's nobody out there. We're recording this, you weirdo.
Oh, crap. That was a wasted monologue. Darn.
Since I had my headphone out, I wasn't able to hear any of that.
So I was just saying that
I'll hear it later.
Yeah, you're going to hear it right now, actually. I was just saying that my initial thought was, what does it mean to level up from 1 to 2 to 3? Oh, that is one of the earlier box sets. Look at that. Game Design Workshop. Yep. Okay. GDW.
Starter Edition 251.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have Game Designers Workshop all spelled out.
Cool.
Usually it's always abbreviated.
Can you look in the chapter headings or whatever?
Let's see.
Is there an advancement even topic in there? Character advancement?
Rules booklet.
There you go.
One book, there's a book here called World Data Tarsus. There is one called, let's see, what is it? Charts and Tables. A whole book for charts and tables. That's kind of the game anyway.
You loved it. You were, I think, struck by Traveler back in the day. You thought it was going to be really cool, but you were also a big sci-fi guy in our group. Yeah. You were the biggest sci-fi group. You read Asimov and Dune and all that crap when we were young.
I was also the largest sci-fi fan, size-wise.
Yes, you were. You were almost the only. Now I like sci-fi, but it wasn't my favorite. I like it though.
Let's see.
Has it got like an advancement track for player characters?
Okay, let's see. There's not an entry in the table of contents that says experience, but there is a referee guide to adventuring. Let's see what that says.
Oh, yes. No, this is fun listening to Joe read his books. This is awesome. The best podcast topic ever.
Let's see here. Traveler settings, patrons. There's nothing that jumps out and says.
So dude might have been right on random Reddit page.
Now it probably depends. It probably does depend on version. This is.
Probably a Mongoose has one. I forgot how many different versions there are of it. So anyway, so getting back to that question. So you would say as a players, would you think, let's just think about our friends. Do you think most of our friends they would agree with you? Yeah, I need the game to advance some.
Yeah, they like that.
I think
part
so.
Of the game. Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason I have a hard time is because I've said before, I'm like 95% DM. I've waffled some, but I used to call myself a year ago 80% DM, but I think I'm really 95. I like to dungeon master. And so playing, I could only play one shots as a player and be completely satisfied. So anyway, now let's talk broad strokes. What should it look like when you level up? I mean, say D&D level 1 to 2. Now, something like Savage Worlds is a little different. We'll get to the differences shortly, but you go from a novice. There's a difference between level 1, level 2, level 3 versus Savage Worlds, which you have tiers. Novice, you have some advancements within that tier, and then you get to seasoned. That's a new tier. Then you get, in fact, it's 3 in the new version of D&D. You get 3 advancements, then a new tier, then seasoned, then veteran, and so on. So you jump up to a new quote unquote tier versus games like Call of Cthulhu, I think. Rune Quest, where you get percentage, all your skills are based on percentages, or you just get points to spend when you level up. In D&D and Savage Worlds, you actually get new abilities. Just blam, here you can do this now. Blam, you can cast second level spells. Your character can now cast second level spells. In our Mud Sword game, he popped to third last time. So does that feel like something you think is that good? I think it's good. It's got to be good. People always look for how you level up in the game. That's an important, not just important, but is that how it should always look like, you think? Or you get either new abilities or your abilities get better?
Well, I mean, advancement. I mean, if you're advancing, if nothing changes about your character, you're not advancing.
Even the raw data should change.
Or there's something.
For sure.
I mean, even if you just say, hey, he explored that hill over there. He knows about that hill now.
Right. What does that mean?
Okay. That's
Sure.
yay. Who cares? But if advancement doesn't mean some sort of tangible thing, then it isn't anything. So if we're going to say advancement is part of the game, then you have to quantify that as something, even if it's as little as you complete a task or a certain part of the story or something like that. It's either you get a thing, either a blob of points or a point or token or whatever, and you in some systems you exchange it for, let's say, a skill bump, or a stat goes up, or in some cases you make a roll to see if things increase.
Correct. And sometimes
So-
you get to roll over your skill. Every
Yeah.
once in a while you get to roll under your skill.
Yeah, depending on the system. So
Yeah.
So if there's not some sort of quantifiable thing that gets better about your character, then you're not really advancing. So
Agreed.
So, and I think a lot of us like it. We're used to it.
Absolutely.
We've played these games for a while, and it's a thing we like. The speed of advancement, is a different
It's a different can of worms.
different can of worms. But advancement, just in and of itself, is something that I like about role-playing games, and I think it's kind of integral. If you're not advancing, what are you playing?
Yes. Well, because the game's could feel like it's not going anywhere.
Right.
Right. And yeah, it'll feel like a one shot. Do you think with advancement, so in D&D level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, should there be a cap on advancement? I mean, D&D has like race class combos. Do you think in most games, we've not played a lot of other games, but I'm trying to think.
Used to be in first and second, definitely first.
Yes.
That there was no real upper limit, right? You could just keep going. Now, after a certain level, depending on the class, that doesn't matter what level you get to, it stopped really mattering.
Yeah, and your statistics can have caps on them, either hard or soft. Like I know, like in first, second edition, if you got the belt of a storm giant strength, you have a 25 strength. That's the best you could hope for. Though I think you could use multiple wishes to get another point in a stat. Do you like the idea of a cap in a game, or would you rather just let's just take D&D? Would you prefer that D&D's has a cap, like 15th or 20th level is the highest level you can reach?
I'm not sure. For the most part, I'd rather it not have one.
Yeah. Well, do you think
just to see what it looks like, as you get now, when you get to the point where those level increases don't matter a whole lot, maybe so.
Right.
In BECME, you get to 36th level, and that's a hard stop. In first edition, there wasn't one, but around 17th, 18th level for like wizard, maybe even a little lower for fighters. Although they always got +3 hit points per level.
That's really all you're getting.
So around
I know you're
20th
talking
level,
Yeah.
around 20th level ish in first and second edition was a practical cap because you didn't really get much beyond that.
The designers didn't give you any info beyond that.
Right.
Now, in other games where you get like, where you just like, I think at Savage Worlds, where whenever you gain an advancement, you get to pick either a bump in one of your physical attributes or mental attributes, or you can buy a new, what's called an edge. It's like a cool new ability you get. You could keep doing that until you run out of edges, technically. So you could play, 75 advancements past legendary if you wanted to.
Some people say the game is not playable after a certain level.
Talking about
D&D. I don't think that's the case with Savage Worlds or many other systems, but for D&D, for especially first and second, some people I think even make it out in Beckme. And once you get past a certain level, low teens, maybe 10, 12, 13, the game becomes unplayable and everybody should retire.
I don't know. Unplayable. That's a strong phrase.
Yeah.
I know that people like Mike Merles in the early days of Pathfinder, not early days, when we were way into Pathfinder, probably 4 or 5 years into Pathfinder 1, he made the comment that the bestiary was really had no monsters that were a challenge for character. They actually had none in the game that they thought was a challenge for characters above 15th level, even though the book went to 20. Because 3.x and Pathfinder is a version of 3rd edition, just a cool, kind of a cooler, sleeker with some extra stuff. Not cooler, just had a few extra things, and it smoothed out some rough spots, made some things a little bit more powerful. But you could quickly get characters. I mean, I think you could probably I think that's generous. I think with our players in our group, if we played a full-on Pathfinder campaign and I said everything goes, and I ran modules, at least initially, and let you get all that gold and you could buy stuff and magic items. I think by 12th or 13th level, you guys would be tough enough to take on just about anything. There would be a handful of things that would be hard, but by 15th level, you wouldn't need 9th level spells to take care of a Baylor.
Well, they front loaded all your abilities, I think, in a big way. Not necessarily at first level, but at low level, you got lots of abilities really fast. And I always, especially in third edition, I always chuckled at they call it the capstone ability. I don't know if that's a Pathfinder term or if
I don't know if it is or not.
But at 20th level, you get this new ability. I'm like, well, fine, never get 20th level anyway. All the campaigns end way before 20th level, and a lot of those capstone abilities were stupid anyway.
Like, oh, you get this cool power that's automatically death if somebody fails a save, DC 22. I'm like, DC 22,
right?
You're a 20th level character, you're fighting CR 30 monsters. I got news for you. Every one of their saves is going to be a 2 or higher to make it 22.
Yeah, so you can kill a bunch of peasants. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, now granted, you could argue within the story of the world, that's pretty boss.
Sure.
What was the death dirge of the bards?
Oh, I remember that. Not the details, but I remember that.
I think that was pretty good because that could be modified by the bard's charisma, which you could break your stats to the nth level.
Yeah, so, 30 plus.
Yeah. So caps. I think there are caps provided because there's only so much you can do within one book. Pathfinder tried to go to Mythic with their Mythic book. 3rd edition went to Epic. You can argue how good it was. Even 2nd edition D&D had high level campaigns that let you go higher than 20, I believe, or even help you with making higher level.
Yeah, they had the player's option high level thing.
But I think as a designer, I think unless you have a game where you're just getting percentages, and then even me, and I know there's rules where I know there's some games where like you can have like Warhammer, weapon skill would be 48%. But if you play a Warhammer character up till he gets to 100% weapon skill, or 120 or 140, it's like he would need tremendous penalties not to hit something. So, but maybe they're there. I don't know. I know Rifts was pretty big on always something bigger or better around the corner. I'm just saying,
or you just don't. There's no talent.
Yeah,
there's no talent.
But the designers can only do so much to take to say play as much as you want. Well, at some point, they got to stop writing.
Mm-hmm.
The book has unless you have things like a 3rd edition game where you can get +1, higher spell resistance, things that can be advanced forever and ever.
Yeah, you just say plus X per level or for so many levels from here on to oblivion.
Even that while it's not useless levels, it feels a little stale after a while. So I think
Sure.
there's a practical level limit, which I think for you and I in D&D tends to be higher than other people. A lot of folks want to quit around the 7th or 8th level or 10th or 15th level. We kind of wanted to go to at least the end of the book. You mentioned pacing. Do you prefer games, or do you prefer, this is not so much, I don't know if there's any games that are there games that let you level up in big chunks? I mean,
Well, D&D is a big chunk leveling system
okay.
in general, especially the more farther in the future or 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition. You get more for your leveling than say in previous editions.
Right. You'd have dead level.
Right. And nobody liked dead levels, and I can kind of understand that. But
that goes to the question. Go ahead.
But there's the other systems like what you were just mentioning, Savage Worlds is incremental. You get one bit, and then you have a separate, your incremental things, and then you have a separate thing which is the tiers. And when you hit a tier, really the only thing it means is that you have access to that tier's abilities when you select things.
Right.
I don't think it doesn't really change a whole lot else in the game, right?
Well, when you get a new tier, when you get a new tier, there are some edges that you have to be seasoned to be able to access.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Different. You can access new things when you're building your character.
And within a tier, within a tier, you can only raise your spirit once. So while you're a novice character, even though you get 3 advances, you couldn't increase your spirit stat 3 times. You can do it once.
Right.
You can only advance any stat any stat once per tier. So they had some balancing. I mean, I've talked about how Savage Worlds, I'm using my arm here, are more of an exponential curve or a logarithmic curve, whereas D&D is more of a linear. So basically one where your arm's kind of curved versus straight at an angle where you just get better and better and better.
Right. But what I'm saying is in that the tiers once you hit a tier, the only thing it really matters for is what you can select in subsequent advances. It doesn't change gameplay at all.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I think compared to D&D, Savage Worlds, even if you're playing Legendary, which is several tiers up above Novice, you get to do some really cool stuff, but the game feels, I think, very comfortable. If you've learned, we played Savage Worlds enough where if someone said, I'm going to pre-make some Legendary characters, we'd be like, okay.
Right.
Wouldn't be a problem. Now, it might be a little weird having, a character with 12, 14 edges on your paper, or like Savage Rifts where you get boatloads, but we pretty much know how things work.
Right.
Whereas D&D, if you say, I'm going to bring up 20th level characters, you'd be like, oh man, that's a lot of crap to know.
Right. You can't just throw down a 20th level character. You can. But a lot of us haven't. I would say the vast majority of people who play D&D, especially older versions, maybe not necessarily 3rd, 4th, 5th, there's not a lot of folks who play at the upper level. So you throw down a 20th level character in front of somebody, they're going to look at that thing and say, I don't know what this thing can do, but I'll try it. Let's try it. It might be fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like sticking, Randy, who I can drive a car, but you're going to put me in a Formula 1 race car? I'm probably going to wreck.
Yeah.
I can't drive that thing. That's an interesting question. I would love to hear from our cabin kind guys, who's played characters from level 1 to 20? Joe has, especially the early days.
Yeah.
Just a lot of speed leveling.
Mm-hmm.
But we played a lot, even in 3rd edition, you and I both did. I ran 2 campaigns to 20th level. I know you played at least 1.
Right. But back in the day when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
And a much less complicated world in general, I think.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
So we played all the time.
We'd play all weekend.
We'd
try to squeeze in 1 or 2 days if we could. My players would literally badger me during the school week. Can we play tonight? Can we play for 3 hours? I mean, you guys would do that. Hey, it's Wednesday. Well, you got something ready? I mean, so
you throw down right quick.
Yeah, I got my character. Let's do it. I'm like, okay.
And
now
then everybody'd be dead inside an hour, and then we'd be done. We're not doing that again. Or I would say
And then
I would say
you would say that, and then 2 weeks later, you guys would badger me. But now I did think 13th Age, this is funny. 13th Age has an interesting combination of experience points to gain levels and incremental advances.
it does that somewhat differently from Savage
For
Worlds.
sure.
Yeah.
This is different. So like if you jump from level 1 to level 2 in 13th Age, that's kind of a big jump.
Yeah. It's a
So
jump.
what you could do, you could let players do adventures and give them an incremental advance in 13th Age would be like, okay, I'm not second level, but I get to roll my hit points for second level.
Right. Right.
I'm not second level, but my next incremental advance, I get to pick my spell that I would get in second level. And I'm not second level, but I get to pick my skill bonus for second level. And we got some players, our buddy Dave, he likes that. And I learned not to like it for a couple of reasons, because I don't think there's a lot of good balance there. Some characters, there's not many dead levels for any character, but there are some characters that progress pretty blandly. The Paladin, the Barbarian, the Ranger. Not that they suck, but they progress kind of blandly. And any spellcaster, you're always going to choose your spell for the next level, because spells don't just get a little bit better.
No,
you
it's
get access.
a big jump.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it was like you would always do that. And that felt a little cheese ballish. And plus, I didn't care for it. I'm trying to remember.
I didn't think there was a big need for it because the characters are just powerful enough to always win.
It sure. Now we got people that would argue that Dave says I've heard people talk about Dave running some pretty hardcore games, but and I'm considered a pretty tough DM, and I've yet to kill characters permanently. I really should have killed Jeffrey once. He should have died once. We used relationship points, and we stretched the believability there. So something like D&D uses experience point charts, either varied by character type. So you have fighter chart, wizard chart, or uniform, like in 3rd edition, versus the option. I don't know if was this an option in 3rd Milestones?
I'm sure somewhere along the line it was introduced. I'm not sure where, but I remember there being discussions about, at the very least, non-combat versions of experience gain. I can't say for sure.
I do remember in 2nd, especially during the glut of all the settings, which I loved. They talked a lot about story awards, but let's call Milestones kind of the DM fiat or caveat, or when the story requires it or allows it for you to gain levels. Do you like one over the other?
Milestone versus experience points. So if you're playing older school game, I would say stick with the experience points because of the differing charts. So if you have, and those were there because the different character classes had different strength levels. They weren't balanced, and I don't think that that's ever something they should have ever done or tried to do, because good luck. I think that's one of the reasons why we had so many issues with had so many issues with 3rd edition and beyond, because they thought that the idea that the character classes should be balanced brought other issues and other issues with it that I think after playing it for a while I can recognize. But in older versions, you had different classes of differing power levels, so they had different experience point levels to get to their new level. Like the thief was the fastest, and either cleric or fighter was next, and then wizard was the hardest, practically, in overview wise. And I think that's fine, because thieves were really sucky in the old game.
Yes.
And you wanted them to get better because their percentage chance to do their job was really low. So it was a good thing that they could advance quickly. So I think for a game where everybody earns or levels at the same rate, and there's really no difference, then I don't see the point in having a chart.
Yeah, and I think Savage Worlds slowly made their chart. They had a chart of so many experience points to equal the next tier. And now it ended up being just every 3 experience points, you got the next tier. So they said every 3 advances, you get a tier, you know.
So they changed it from 4 to 3?
No, it used to be, it might have used to been 5, but I think it's 3 now. I could be wrong.
No, I'm asking because, I don't remember.
It's been a while. It's something
It
like
sounded
3.
like you said it's 3 now when it
No,
should.
they used to have an experience point chart. If you have 0 to 3 experience points, you are novice. If you have 4 to 6, you are.
You mean advances? I don't think they called them experience points.
Well, they did call them experience points in as recently as Savage Worlds Deluxe.
Oh, I thought they were just advances.
No, but they were
Okay.
equivalent to that. You're right, because when you got an experience point, you got an advance. So they cut the middleman out of that.
Mhm.
I think milestones, like you said, are probably most useful in games where characters level the same.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess in another way to look at it would be, and you could still do it with milestones.
Mhm.
A way to use the experience point charts, even in that vein, is award slowly, and you can really go really slow. But you could do
Yes.
that with milestones too.
What do you prefer? Well, before I get to that, what do you think of? Did you look at my 2 other examples about making skill checks to gain experience points?
Right. Either right.
To improve a skill or to whatever. What did you think of? I used Call of Cthulhu and Dungeon World as the 2 opposite ends, kind of.
Yeah. Oh, I do have some thoughts on that. I typed them up on my phone because when I first read this, I was the only device I had to hand was my phone. So where is that at? Right, for skills. I think you could probably, I don't really favor one over the other.
Mm-hmm.
And you could actually combine those if you really want to use that kind of an advancement system. If it's a skill-based game,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to roll to advance your skills. And I know Call of Cthulhu is like that. You may have said so.
Yeah.
I think that you could even combine rolling high and low in the same system.
Yeah, you could.
You
I
could
think
say if you roll high,
Mhm.
you just represent it by a different advancement rate. So if you roll high, and it probably just depends on the situation. Also,
Well, if what I Googled Call of Cthulhu, you have to, the GM has to call for a formal skill check. So I guess it's like you're rolling now to get experience points. If you succeed, you make a note of it for later. Succeed on an event, and then you have to succeed on an advancement roll. If you get a decent result, then it improves the number of skill points you get. So not just, so you make the formal roll, like I'm making a strength check, you make it, and then you make an advancement roll based on the fact that you made a skill check. And if that advancement roll is high enough, you get more points.
Right. It's a bit complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit complicated. But then again, Call of Cthulhu, you probably aren't looking to have your characters advance a whole lot. I mean, like real fast. Because especially if you're playing 1920s, I'm a detective and I'm a professor of occult lore. I mean, really, what's he getting better at that fast? Whereas it looks like I'm reading from online, classic Dungeon World, adventurers mark experience points every time their player rolls a 6 or lower while taking a move, which a 6 or lower is kind of a not a full success. I don't know if it's fail forward or whatever, but it's kind of a not a success sort of thing. I do think that's interesting. I read somewhere in Reddit, they said Dungeon World characters can advance really fast, but that's kind of a game that's meant to be about kind of more story and action and not just worrying about all the nitty gritty details.
Yeah, I think there's different schools of thought on what's more beneficial to a person. And it's in real life, like psychological studies.
Yeah.
Whether people are successful and good at their job, or whether succeeding or failing at tasks teaches you more or less. And different studies and ways of thinking favor one over the other.
Yeah, and I know there's games that do like this too, where you gain experience points. And we talked a little bit about the cipher system, where you gain experience points and you spend them to get new abilities, but you can also spend them to get rerolls. We talked about that being kind of burning too much from one source pool.
Well, it could be a way of slow advancement.
Right. And there's a game, I know there are games where you just get experience points and you spend them. I believe Shadowrun, folks could correct me, where you get like 10 experience points and you spend them to get karma points, I believe, to get new abilities.
Right.
My thought is experience point charts like in D&D or Milestone or either one of those. You already said you don't care too much for the skill checks and up or down that much, but spending
I don't favor one or the other.
don't favor. Oh, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter to you either way. You have no strong feeling.
Right.
But can you think of any other types? Oh, there's one I found called Fellowship. It's where one player is chosen by consensus to advance at the close of each session. Just one player.
Okay.
Well, the game kind of implies you're working together, and I guess you, by consensus, decide who had the most significant impact.
I suppose that
Whose
counts.
psyche is most sturdy. I mean, it might be a great game. It doesn't sound like something up our alley.
I doubt it's a good game.
Did you do you know of any other advancement systems besides the ones we've talked
Well,
about?
experience point charts, milestones, spend.
Skill checks up or down.
Yeah, well, so a lot of times you get experience points to spend to do that. I know in Hackmaster, it's a combination. So you gain levels, but you also, and when you gain a level, you gain build points. When you advance, every level gets you build points, and you use those points to advance your skills.
Gotcha. But you get level abilities too.
You still get levels, yes.
Okay.
So it's a combination.
They matter, and they matter. You actually get better at something.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I suppose most things are probably variations on these.
Sure.
So
yeah. What about the pace? If you're playing, Joe, if we're going to run a campaign, we're going to play every 2 weeks. That's kind of my ideal right now. I'd love to play every 2 weeks. And let's say we're doing it. Let's say, we're not missing much. Exceptions aren't that bad. Life's going pretty good. Everybody can get there every other Friday and play. And we're playing, in a month, we play 2 times like clockwork. Some months we get 3 in. And we're humming. For the most part, that's true. And we're really going. We're 6 months in. It's a good time. What pace do you like to advance? How would you like to see advancement? Just in a general sense.
I would say it would be tied to what gets accomplished within the game world. Okay. So, and it depends on, so if you're starting at first level and we're playing a D&D, especially an older version, I would prefer rapid at the beginning.
Yep, me too.
Because I've played first level,
a bunch,
second level, third level, fourth level, a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what version of the older versions. It's fairly similar in play. Sometimes I want to skip it.
Yeah, I know.
I've played it so many times. The only thing that would really draw me to play would be some assurance that, we're not just going to have skeletons and zombies all the time, because frankly, I can only pretend not to know how to kill those things as a player so much. And it can't get boring. Oh, it's a troll, fire. And whatever. So if the monsters and the game world has a different feel to it so that it seems fresh, then those early levels can be not as boring.
Right.
But low level play, I think should be a little slow.
Yeah.
So that you can get to know your character, what it's capable of, get a good feel for the game world. And if there's a high death count, you can introduce new characters without it being a big deal. But if you're advancing, some people want to gain a level every time you play, which is kind of ridiculous. And we're doing that, but because we're exploring and we're playtesting rule differences, rule changes, new rules. So
That's going
advancement's
to
not a
change
big
around
deal.
fifth. That's going to change at fifth level though.
Right.
I was going to do third, but I think I'm going to keep leveling you when I feel like it. And then at fifth level, I think I'm going to go to experience points just to explore experience point charts.
Right.
That brings up something else. What do you think of? This is more D&D.
But let me finish
sorry.
before the new question. So I think I prefer slower advancement because we get fewer hours of play. So I don't think we should. Back in the day, we played a lot, and we played a lot, and we still didn't advance all that rapidly because you need a lot of experience points. So you learned, you had a lot of different experiences with your character, and you got a good feel for what they were capable of. You got a good feel for the character themselves, and you had a lot of cool things to talk about that you were doing.
Right.
But if it only takes you a few months to get from first level, okay, I'm going to be a little hyperbolic. If it takes us a few months to get to 20th level, what are you really going to say?
Yeah. You've not done much.
You haven't done much. So,
right.
With our current complicated life, and can't really play for 8 hours or more, which I would really love to be able to do more often. If we could play that, then it wouldn't matter a whole lot because we would be doing a lot.
Right.
But with our current structure, you don't play a lot. You don't do a whole lot in that 3 hours. I don't care who you are. You're not doing much. If you're only playing 3 hours, you're not doing much. There's no way you can.
Some say they get a lot done, but I'm with you. It doesn't feel like it.
But I prefer low level kind of fast.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it, however long it takes. I don't really care.
And that's why you probably kind of are leaning toward experience point charts, because then I don't have to measure it by the pace that Randy wants or Randy thinks you guys want. It's like, that's what the chart says, dude.
Yeah. However it plays out.
Get 1,000 more experience points. Sally got fifth level. Joe's still fourth. Sorry, that's how it is. He's playing a wizard. That's life.
If you know 3 sessions is a level,
right?
No matter what,
right?
What kind of effort do you really need to put in?
True.
Except to survive.
Right, and we did that for a while. I did that for a long while, especially in third edition.
Yeah.
And we had mentioned about a comment on games with no advancement. How fun could that be? It's not a preference for most people. But for example, take the Aliens RPG. There is advancement. But something like Traveler, where you don't advance other than through the story, getting more money, finally owning your ship, traveling across, getting a reputation. Our friend Eric C., I think he played like a 4 or 5 year long Traveler campaign, mostly over the internet the last few years, but they played for years. And he loved it. I mean, it was every other Saturday night, like clockwork, he was busy. So if you don't advance,
the attraction in a game where you don't advance, or maybe the advancements don't measure much on your character as far as numbers. If it's something where Traveler could be, you could think of Traveler, you could pattern it after something like Star Trek or Firefly or something like that, where in that sort of game, your advancement isn't in your capabilities. It is what you just said. Freely owning your ship, establishing contacts, exploring the universe, and the DM revealing the game, the star system that they have created, and then
building your own interstellar trade company
or something like that. Yeah. Or an interstellar strike force or something of that nature or something. So it would be like having a domain in D&D.
Yeah.
And that would be that would be your advancement.
Yeah. And to me, a classic game to me, and I know they can, and you're going to tell me examples of it. Supers game. There's a Supers game. Sometimes I'm like, even Savage Worlds, which is my favorite Supers to play, I would almost rather pick where you want your character to be to make your superhero, and let's play that. Let's play a few stories. Even if you want to play Superman level, okay, we're all legendary with 10 extra advances, you know? And so whatever, let's tell high cosmic level superhero tales rather than go from novice to season to veteran, because it doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense when all of a sudden your super gets brand new powers. And I know there's examples where it happens, but they're very infrequent.
Right.
Batman's mostly Batman, pretty much always since 1939 or 41 or whatever it came out.
Well, okay, so I heard a comment on the most recent movie offering that's coming out soon, which I didn't really think I liked the trailer, because there's lots of explosions and blah blah blah, and the Batman, yeah, and it seems like more of what we've been getting instead of perhaps telling the tale of the greatest detective ever, right? Yeah. And so if someone said this is early on when he hasn't become the greatest detective,
year 1 or year 2, yeah, right.
And I'm like, okay, but you can tell the tale of him becoming a detective, the greatest detective. I mean, how long? So it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but everything exploding all the time.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I watched a review of that trailer by Critical Drinker. He says he's cautiously optimistic. I kind of am too, but I lean toward, I don't expect it to be good. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate Robert Pattinson. I mean, he is awfully skinny for Batman, but he is a young Batman. Okay, but really, outside of the suit, dude don't look, at least Ben Affleck, you could tell he put on some muscle.
Right.
And Ben Affleck, he pumped some iron for that role. But having said that, it can still be a good story, even if the character doesn't look all that, you know, quote unquote, the actor doesn't look all that believable. I mean, who thought Hugh Jackman could be Wolverine?
Right. And then Wolverine, I mean, not Wolverine. Yeah. Michael Keaton was not physically impressive in the slightest.
But he was really good as Bruce Wayne and a solid Batman. Yeah, so I don't, do you think I don't think Supers games are great for, in my mind, that's one of the, I like Mutants and Mastermind and I like Savage Worlds and some of those games, but keep advancing over and over again just seems a little, I mean, not everybody gets to become Super Flash. I'm pretty darn fast. I'm crazy fast. I got the Speed Force. I've mastered the Speed Force. I'm so fast I got lost in time. Right. I mean, I guess, but I don't know.
I think it is, in the comic book milieu, advancement isn't as big of a thing. So the comic book game, probably it should be a minor part.
What do you think of this, though? I just thought of this. I talked about this with our friend Amy once, and she had a cool idea for a setting. What if you're in a setting? What if you design your setting for a super setting where advancement makes sense? What if all the heroes are infected with some virus, infected with some super soldier serum that no one knows how it works? And every time they are exposed to something, and that could vary from character to character, they have a mutation and they do change. I mean, sometimes drastically. So you could literally, it would make sense to get new powers. That would be kind of fun if you say, I'm going to run Mutants and Mastermind, or I'm going to run Savage Worlds. We're going to get advances. So I'm going to build a superhero world where it makes sense for the superheroes to change. That wouldn't be bad.
Right.
That would feel okay. Especially if you have a group of players who are like, we really want to advance. We want to get to the new goodies and change the character kind of D&D style. So,
well, there's another way you can do that with a Superman type character, where, but you couldn't do it very well with in the construct of a game session unless time went by, big chunks of time. Because Superman, you could say, his time on Earth, the longer he spends here in the yellow sun, because the yellow sun is the source of his power, the more he spends in proximity to it, the more his powers advance or refine, or however you want to call it. So, and I know you said that there was one comic where he spent however long in the sun. And he got really super powerful. I mean, like he's not already, but
There was like a Superman. Apparently, there was some what if type story where they told where Superman and Lois passed away, and they had children, and he eventually his children were like him, even though they were partially human. They were pretty super dudes, and they were protecting the world. And he's like, hey, I've been basking because he gets more powerful, and he went closer to the sun. He ended up building a fortress of solitude on the surface of the sun, and he learned how to become immune to psychic attacks.
right, because that's
He
one of his
learned-
his big weaknesses is magic.
And living for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years on the sun, next thing you know, he became immune to magic.
Mhm.
Superman became truly unstoppable.
Right.
Kryptonite no longer bothered him. So he was basically like a god.
Right.
Right. So what about that connection to Cabin Con and Elysium, our campaign there? We had a small band of levels. We basically worked 6 to 10. And you really fought hard against that limitation. But a game like that where there used to be, I know WotC did surveys. I don't remember if it was between the 3rd and 4th edition eras, between 4th and 5th. I want to say they did 3rd and 4th and 4th and 5th, where they said most people play up to 10th level and then they punt
Right.
on a campaign. What do you think about a campaign where you say, we're only going to play this window of levels? And is that sort of advancement? Is that just completely unsatisfying to you?
Well, I mean, no, because Elysium wasn't completely unsatisfying. It wasn't
Right.
really
Fine.
unsatisfying. So,
Right.
but if it's limited in level, it's probably going to be limited in scope and limited in duration as far as how long you play the game. A year, 2 years max. You only have 5 levels. You're starting at 6 and you're only advancing 4 times, 7,
Correct.
8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
So you can still get a lot of play out of that.
We
But
did.
and we did, but we kind of, once some of us got to 10th level, we did kind of different, alternate things for them to do,
Mhm.
or you just didn't, since it was, you had a lot of characters, you didn't always play a particular one.
Right.
So once one got to 10th level, you picked up a different one, or you're playing different characters at different times. So you don't necessarily get to 10th level all that rapidly. But so a band, 4 levels, can be fun, short-lived campaign, I would say.
I agree.
Ideally.
And we did play. We got a lot out of it. We played it at Cabin Con mostly, but we'd have 3, 4, 5 sessions throughout the year.
Yeah, because if we had played that as a home campaign, it probably would have ended a lot sooner.
For sure. For sure. Any other thoughts on advancement that you wanted to bring up?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think we're good on advancement. Of course, if folks out there want us to do anything more on this as an idea, this is a theoretical discussion with, and if you want us to treat it more in depth with a particular game system, let us know.
Yep. If we know about it, we'll give it a try. Cool.
All right. So moving along to like it, love it, or leave it.
Hit me, brother.
Clowns. It's a little topical.
Mostly leave it. I'm not, they can be a little creepy, but I'm not like really creeped out about clowns. I just honestly, I never thought they were even funny. I never thought clowns were funny. Not like, I mean, it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm scared. I'm like, you're kind of dumb, dude. I just don't care about clowns. They're good for creepy stuff in horror movies and horror games and stuff, but yeah, not for me. Leave it.
So leave it.
Yep.
PDFs.
I think I love them. If they're game PDFs, I'm becoming a big fan. Do a lot of reading on my iPad. Yeah, I used to be just a dead tree guy, but yeah, I'm definitely becoming a fan of PDFs.
Think of less space.
They do. Love it.
Spell checkers.
Yeah, I like them. I sometimes don't pay attention to them.
Yeah, it doesn't look like you pay attention to them.
Yeah, I think they're useful. I don't, yeah, I'm a typo man, so it's okay. But I've learned to type with these 7 fingers. I don't type standard, so yeah, I like it. I guess I like them. They're fine. They're helpful if you pay attention to them.
Sure.
How about you? I got some interesting. I think I got an interesting one for you. What about ghosts? Ooh, Halloween topical.
That would depend. So ghosts as real things, I kind of leave them because I think that they're bullcrap anyway.
Sure, I'm not seeing it myself.
Right. As far as ghosts in movies and whatnot, they can be fun depending on how they're handled. Ghost as the movie Ghost, leave it.
Oh, come on now. Patrick Swayze. What was the song with him and Demi Moore doing the sexy little urn, the ceramic stuff? Come on.
If someone said it, I would say, oh yeah, I remember that, but I don't remember. From my own brain.
Right. From my brain, you now remember. What about motorcycles, baby? Oh,
I love them. I wish I had one.
Oh, they said have you ever ridden one? Have you had one before?
No, but I've wanted one my whole life.
Oh, dude.
They scare my wife to death, so it's not happening.
Leather jacket and all that. You want that whole thing? The whole experience?
I mean, I'm not going to look like a gang member, I guess.
No, but
you need leather. You need leather to protect yourself if you fall off of it.
Cool.
So,
I think I might have learned something about Joseph. I think you've told me that before.
Yeah.
Cool. LARPing.
Leave it.
No interest at all, huh?
I don't want to dress up or run around.
No.
We
used to have.
It's not my speed. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with it. It's just not for me.
I'm with you. That's connected to Halloween that coming up. I want to do one more. What is your opinion on Halloween? You guys tend to do one of the parties in our big group. We used to be the party house for Halloween, but I'll be honest with you. I've never been a huge fan of wearing costumes.
Not really. They're more effort than I think they're made out to be. I like looking at other people's costumes much more than putting one on.
100%. 100%. When I would go to Gen Con, sometimes I would just be wowed by the cosplayers, especially when they made their own. And I would be like, holy crap, that's impressive. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. So that brings us to playing in the mud.
Yeah.
We're going to discuss our experiments making our own game system, which we are codenaming Mud Sword.
Right. It may have to end up being Mud Sword. Mud Sword is a pretty cool name. No.
That won't work.
So we played last Saturday, 2nd level characters. So did you see how I told you? Did you see how I was testing saving throws, right?
Right.
I made you guys made some saving throws.
I was the subject of one. Very dire one.
Yeah, you were. Now that brings up an interesting question. So yeah, Joe's character's wizard failed a poison save, which as per the rules, and again, when we say rules, I'm borrowing monsters from, I'm either using basic fantasy or I'm using the rules cyclopedia, and it's like -2 poison save or die. And I'm using a single target save. It decreases at a rate roughly equivalent to the average saving throw number of old school D&D, first edition. Well, really still rules cyclopedia. That's what we're trying to focus off of.
Yeah, by class.
But I'll be honest with you, I'm getting less and less enthused with how the rules cyclopedia does things. And I find myself wanting to veer away from it. But having said that, saving throws are fine. And what did you have to get, a 16? 18 actually, right? On that Constitution save? It doesn't matter.
Something like that.
But you failed. And
yeah, because there was a penalty.
And penalty of 2, which is terrifying.
Yes.
At that level. And the previous play test, I have 2 groups right now. Play test session, I played it straight, and the character rolled phenomenal. Joe didn't roll as phenomenal, but I knew it was going to be hard, so I changed it from death, and I was like, well, he'll die in a few rounds. Well, that ended up being definitely what happened, but we worked out a narrative way to save him. I'm not sure. And I guess it's just because I'm feeling so connected to old school that felt wrong to narratively save you. What did you think?
I was fine with having the character die.
Mhm.
I was already rolling up another character.
Yep.
And but in the spirit of continuity, that we're just testing out the rules,
Right.
and it doesn't really matter whether our characters live or die. But it was a good test of lethality. If
Yes.
you want to kill low level characters, give them a penalty on a saving throw that's already really hard to get.
Correct.
Also, if you want to kill low level characters, make sure you have me in the group, because I'm going to have a wizard walk up to a giant spider and attack him in melee, because I didn't want to cast any spells, because the character only has 2 spells, and while the poison save was deadly,
Mhm.
the monster didn't really pose, apart from the saving throw, the poison, that much of a threat. It didn't really do all that much damage. It was not that hard to hit. I should have just stayed in the background, but me as a player, I don't like staying in the background, and I made the wrong move. I moved up, and it probably wouldn't have. It's possible somebody else might have been hit and failed to save other than my character.
Right.
But it's also possible that the way it went down is the spider couldn't hit, or didn't hit anybody else, and got
Your
taken
wife's
out at
spider
some point.
The tank, she was really well defended. She had a great AC.
Right.
Do you think, here's something people don't realize, and this is when I thought of this when I said that I'm not sure how I feel about it, is because when you died, and I don't want to give any details because I may have another group run through that part of the scenario. They kind of ended before that. Joe had figured something out that wasn't obvious. Joe knows me. And he's like, this is a thing. And he acted on it, which was smart. And the rest of the group was like, yeah, we don't believe that thing. Let's call it kind of a trick situation. But Joe figured it out. And that was cool. And I tried to play it off, but I knew he was right. And I was like, he's not going to give this up. And so he figured it out. But the rest of the group was like, nah. And so tell me if I'm wrong. Were you just a little pissed?
I was.
Yeah, because you were like, mad, like, you idiots, fine. I'm just going to go attack the spider. But to be fair to you, you had some pretty sweet luck with your staff that night.
Sure.
Did you actually hit it and do damage?
I did hit it. I did 4 points of damage.
So yeah, that was kind of cool.
But then got killed.
But here's the thing, and I'm supposed to be the killer DM, but you know what? I think I'm a bit of a hypocrite. When I said people are hypocrites, I definitely am. Because when I saw you die, and even though just for a moment you're like, oh, I actually felt sorry for you. I was like, man, this sucks, and it's old school. So Joe started rolling and I liked it. He just started rolling his 4d6, and we did some narrative stuff to bring him back into the story. And I mean, we had a very exciting end, I thought, to the adventure. It was very nail bitey, which is what I was hoping for. But the death rules that we worked on, we have a gritty alternative, which is now the way I'm going to go with. So I think we mentioned before, when a character goes down to 0, we're not tracking negative hit points. If you go to 0, you're down and you're actively dying. I roll a D3. That's how many rounds you have. And what I added, literally like a few hours before we played, was this grittier death roll mechanic, where when you drop in combat the first time, and through the use of magical means, I said, then you will lose your next turn. So if magical means brings you back up, you don't get to just hop up and fight. You got to spend a turn kind of gaining your focus. You're not any more vulnerable, but you can attack. You can move around a little bit, but you can't fight anything. If someone saves you from that by non-magical means, which we said just applying first aid, which we kind of allow everybody to do, they basically patch you up, but you are out of that fight. And if you read later on, I'm taking the tack that if you go down the second time in combat, you can't come back in the fight. If you go down twice, magical means or not, you're out of that fight.
Right.
What do you think?
That's fine.
I think that's pretty good. And that'll make going to 0 suck without being automatic death. Now, of course, I'm still keeping the track of that D3 roll. So if I roll 1 round and nobody gets to you to do either one after the first round, you're dead. You're not coming back at all. You know, unless
Right.
I'm not
Well,
gonna
what do you
run
think
away.
about having a limited amount of times you can be brought back from the brink of death?
I like that. I mean, yes, I absolutely like that. So you limit the number. Let's call it death's door. That used to be a spell.
Right.
You could call
So
that
you-
place death's door. I think I use that in terminology.
So you could have a hard limit, like based on con or just some number, some
Yeah.
arbitrary number, or you could have it limited by a roll,
Yeah.
like the old System Shock roll.
hmm
So that instead of having some other thing to track, you don't worry about any of that. You just roll System Shock. Eventually, someone's going to fail it.
Yeah.
So it's
They're dead.
so either you make it random with the System Shock roll, and that's going to be higher or lower depending on your constitution.
hmm
You just have a roll.
Yeah. That's a
Would
good
you
idea.
rather have, so if you put it to,
Are you talking
if you had
about
a,
within one combat being knocked down?
no, I mean, period.
Oh,
So your constitution could be the limit, and you keep track of how many times you've been brought back from the brink. And so you might get expended rapidly at low level.
right.
But once you get past a certain point, you'll still have a lot of it used, but it may be less of an occurrence. So
Right.
so it could encourage a certain kind of play where people are maybe a little more cohesive, so
Mhm.
that they know that every time a character goes down, maybe Joe's wizard goes down 3 times, they're like, okay, we got to really protect Joe's wizard because
It's costing you. Well,
It's
he's back
costing.
he's back to full hit points. Doesn't matter. Yes, it does.
And then you can have some optional thing where you as the DM could introduce a way to reset that, like you walk under a magic fountain or something, or you get blessed by the goddess of healing, and now you're restored, because you could imagine someone who's used up in that fashion so many
Right.
times, they might have some kind of physical appearance that, he's really scarred up. Just looks worn out, and you can tell that he's on borrowed time.
What do you think of it not being all physical? Isn't that talk a lot about the will to live?
Mhm.
What if we took, instead of your con score, what if it was the average of your con and your wisdom?
Well, that'd make it more complicated.
Okay, fair enough. But would it be something that could add willpower to it? Or do you think that's too much to worry about?
I mean, it's a different way of doing it. So I don't know. I don't really know if one is more,
Because
one
it's
is
going to be a
better
number.
than the other.
We're going to call it your death's door number or your brought back from the brink number.
Something.
And that'll be total number of times you can go to 0 or lower in your lifetime.
Right.
And there can be resets and magical.
Right. They won't be codified.
No.
That will just be a line. Your
Just
DM,
like spell secrets.
it may not even be a line that's in the player's rules. It could be a note to the DM. Note to the DM. You could
Mm-hmm.
introduce something to reset that if you like.
Right.
But it may not. It's going to be an option that the DM could employ. Not something that the players would look forward to.
If we were to ever market this, and actually, which I hope we'll get, I want to give it away to a lot of people initially, but if we were to market this in a PDF format, we can't use DM, right?
You can't use what?
We can't use the phrase, isn't Dungeon Master trademark? If
It
so,
might be.
I want to use Dungeon Dude. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I have no preference. We're gonna have to look up some rules on that if we ever get to that point. Yeah, I like your idea, Joe. That's great. That's a great idea. A death door number equal to con, which would be simple. So if you get a really beefy fighter, 18 con, he can go down to 0 or lower 18 times in his career, which is a lot. But if you got a weak little wizard who's only got like an 11 con, going down's tough.
Right.
Getting knocked.
If you want it, and you could always have the option, you could say optionally,
yeah,
make it a system shock roll. So it could
Right.
it could happen after one
yes,
brink. So you're death's door. They bring you back, roll system shock. You blow
Yeah.
it, you're dead.
yeah. Even if they use magic means, I mean, your body may not be able to take it.
Right.
Because I did kind of like how in 13th Age you have these recoveries, and essentially they say you can only get healed so many times before your body can essentially take it. I've always liked the idea of magic, of your body being limited to how much, because you imagine carrying a high level. I've drunk 47 healing potions today. Really? With no effect whatsoever. I feel like maybe you can only handle so much magic, and that would be what that could be part of what that represents, and your body can only be so tough.
This could also be just another way of that of the 5th edition death save.
Right.
And we could just say you hit 0, you're dead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we could. Oh no, there's always that.
Yeah. So
this is kind of, this might be too generous. I thought, what if and probably too harsh if I said, what if it was your modifier? That'd be too harsh. A lot of folks would get 0 in old school,
right,
or at least 1. Your wife mentioned this, talking about you getting, well, we'll save your body and we'll raise you from the dead. That's probably a different discussion. I'm right now leaning toward raising dead being a ritual, and I'm going to probably borrow from 13th Age, where it's going to cost the priest something, not just you. I mean, I'm thinking raised dead is going to be a cost to both the priest and a cost to the PC, because I want it to be a thing that matters. Just because you went into the temple of elemental evil and decided to handle the evil that was there, and you come back, you're dead. That doesn't mean the town's like, oh, we should be obligated to raise you from the dead because you're a 5th level character. Poop on that. That doesn't make any sense. Why should that be obligated? Even well, you're a faithful follower. Okay. But the God is going to give the power to bring him back from the dead. I want that to be a significant thing. It doesn't have to be questy, but I do want it to be like, maybe the reason is because the power, like in 13th Age, a priest can only cast raise dead so many times.
Right.
The last time he cast it when he's dead. It kills him.
Right.
So I mean, that would be a pretty, I want it to be costly. I don't want it to be a dime a dozen, but we'll see how high level play works out. We may change our mind on that.
Right. I would say though, if you're going to do the one, then don't do the other. If you're going to have resurrection in the game, a possibility that doesn't necessarily cost a truckload of gold, where you could take a low level character that perhaps has done great service and has a great reputation already, and that might be sufficient to get him at least in the cleric's door and say, okay, I'll do this, however, and then figure out what the however is.
Yeah.
If that's
I'm not thinking moolah. I'm not thinking moolah.
I would say if you're going to do that, then you don't need complicated keeping you from dying rules. You just let death happen. At the most, do that 3 strikes you're out, thing, but none of the other stuff. If resurrection is possible, just let resurrection be possible.
You got things to think about there.
If we're going to do all of this brink of death thing, you might just not have resurrection or raise dead or anything like that.
There you go. That would make it. Yeah. Okay.
I would say one or the other, not both.
Okay.
Or at least say optional, but I would say base game, one or the other. I would lean heavier to the more deadly.
Okay. Clerics and their miracle points, or lawgivers and their miracle points.
I still think they have too many.
Oh, agreed. I'm gonna say two play tests is not enough, but they have too many. I mean, they went from both the 2 different groups. Their lawgivers had 5 miracle points, which is 5 first level spells. They were carrying the load. I also think my holy light spell, do you think it's too good, or do you think it's just because I could cast it so much, or it's just too long duration?
Probably a mixture of that stuff.
Okay.
So primarily too many times.
Yes. 5. I mean, the lawgiver was kind of the star of the show last time, in both sessions.
Right. Because right now, light you can use to blind a single creature. I mean, the light is actually on them. So they're blind and they have the light on them. And so they're the source of light. And then it lasts however the light lasts however that does. But I think the blindness may be longer duration. I can't remember off the top of my head. But
the regular light spell. My holy light is if any evil creature comes in the area of effect, they have to make a save or be blind for a D4 rounds.
Right.
It's a little different. So
but that can target multiple creatures over its duration.
And it lasts 12 turns. So it's way too long.
Yeah. I mean, so let's say clerics get light. I would say that kind of effect would be from a higher level cleric. So they could still have holy light. Maybe it does something minor
Mhm.
at first level, or you
Right.
could say they get light as a first level spell.
Right.
At second, third, or fourth level, it becomes holy light and does something different. And then at some other level, it does what you're just saying. Is I think having a
Lightning
near limitless number of targets
Yes.
is very powerful.
I agree. It's very powerful. And giving on top of that, I was giving the lawgiver his level plus his wisdom modifier. So no spells at level 1, 4 or 5 spells at level 2, where the wizard's running with 2. So yeah, that definitely has to change. What about the little secret? Now, I don't know if we should talk. You got a secret because it was part of the narrative part, but I gave kind of a secret to your wizard.
Yeah, I can't remember what you said about the secret.
You got to learn that there are ways to one time, if you focus well enough, you can bring, because our wizards are using advanced.
Oh yeah, recalling a spell.
I'll let you recall one spell
Mhm.
from your spell book. You could do that under the right circumstances. And so we kind of left that vague, but you recalled shield to get yourself out of that situation. I don't want to talk about it too much, but did you like that? Do you think spell secrets are interesting and spellbook secrets are interesting?
Yes. So technically, that was the new character's thing.
Correct.
So not the character that was resurrected. So that character does not have the secret.
No.
Now, if you yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which was actually a very powerful secret. I mean,
right.
because that means if that was actually your character and you were playing it, you would get to know that. So you could. Now, my thought is when you're out of spells, you have to be completely out of spells, then you can do it. If you have one spell memorized, nope. Your mind has to be completely clear of formula, and then you focus on something. That would be good.
Yeah, out of spells and under duress.
Yeah, right. There you go. Out of spells and under duress. Because at 15th level, that could be pretty boss. All right, I cast mass. I remember mass teleport.
Now we could say, since we rescued that wizard, that he could have taught that secret to the wizard that was resurrected.
I'm kind of. I don't think in a regular campaign I would do that.
Yeah.
But I think for this one I'm cool with it because it's a neat thing. It's neat, and I want your character Katama to have that.
Right.
So absolutely, because I want to see how. I don't think it's gonna bust things up. I think it's just gonna make you kind of interesting when you run out of spells.
And it's not. I don't think it's going to happen all that often.
No. So, and you got to be under duress. You can't be, well, I'm out of spells. Let's spend before we spend the night, I just call this spell back up. It's not going to be like that.
Not just in combat.
No, you have to be real under your character. And you know what I mean? You were in serious.
Yes.
Yeah. Dire straits. Okay. Did you have any other thoughts on the play test?
Apart from the lawgiver having too many spell points, not really.
Okay.
So far, getting enough money to upgrade the fighter's equipment was a big upgrade.
Yes, it was. And I may have to rethink that because Jenny's fighter went from okay to like really good.
Right.
But maybe that's okay.
But just as far as staying power.
Yes, right. I still hit her character. She got hit a couple times.
Right.
It wasn't like the first play test where I nearly killed her.
Right.
So yeah, that was pretty, and that's okay. So you're going to bump to level 3. So you and I has got a bit of an assignment. You and I have a bit of an assignment. We got to get second level spells figured out.
Right.
And I got to adjust. So I'm going to make a note that I need to do the cleric spells level 2, and I need to screw them lawgivers. Actually, I don't know. I got to look. I'm not sure if they get second level spells at 3rd level. I think I changed the rate at which they get.
Well, if they get first level spells at 2nd level, they shouldn't be getting second level spells at 3rd. It should be.
I think I have a separate chart. I think I have a chart where they're gaining slower, much slower. So I think it's like 15th level before you get access to 5th level miracles.
Right.
But they're not going to get, their spells are meant to be miracles. I do want them to be a little better, have a little magical goodness, lawfulness, God touch to them. But I think Holy Light's way too juicy.
Yeah.
So I got to back that thing way down. All right, cool. I'm looking forward to the next time we play. I don't know when that'll be. Probably not this weekend, but
probably not.
But hopefully sometime.
Yeah.
Soon.
All right. So that being said, do we have any? Oh. Let me see. I do. All right. So I missed something when we were talking about advancement.
Oh,
So we're in the mud, so it might be something we need to consider
okay.
as potential. So if we're going to use experience point charts, and we're not going to worry about different character classes being exactly equal.
Mhm.
One thought I had on that is when you're using points instead of milestones,
Yeah.
you could have a situation depending on what you award experience points for. If you
Yeah.
just give a hunk of points after success in the scenario and don't really consider anything else,
Mhm.
it's kind of like milestones, maybe milestones in a mini way.
Yeah.
But if you have multiple ways for characters to get experience points, a clever and good player could outpace other players who aren't up to the task, perhaps, or said in a different way. If they're playing better,
Yeah.
they're going to get more experience points for their character.
Well,
Not necessarily for high rolls. I'm just
player
saying,
skill. Player skill.
clever, being clever, role playing, and all these things. So
Investment, knowing the rules. I mean, look, I'm fine with that. I'm done with the times where everybody's got to be level 5 and level 3 and level 2.
all at the same time.
If you're a wallflower, that's fine. And if you don't talk much, that's fine. If you don't invest, if you don't show up, if you don't read the book or study things much in between, that's fine. But people that do should be rewarded for that. For active, I'm into it. I'm thinking about the game. Outside of the game, I have plans to try to get more experience points. Good for you. Good on you. That's what I say. And so if we have a 2-level disparity, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry about your luck.
You should get after it.
Yeah, get after it. Or be happy being in the back.
Yeah. All righty.
There was something I wanted to add during our plug time, but I forgot. Oh well.
All righty. Well, hopefully you will remember it next time and we'll get it in then. Was it a plugging somebody else thing or a plugging us thing?
No, it was something about us and I. Oh well, never mind.
Live stream, potential live stream.
Oh, we didn't do that this week. We should do that. Maybe this weekend we can do it.
But that's not what you were talking gonna
No,
say?
it was something else. Oh well, forget about it.
All right. So all that being said, if you'd like to support our show, please help get the word out by telling your friends. And check out our website at biggestgeekestpodcast.com. And if you go to the support tab, there will be some ways for you to help us out financially. Like we keep saying right now, just get the word out. If you have other friends who like role-playing game podcasts, please introduce them to this one. We are on Odyssey and YouTube, and on all the podcatchers. Please rate us, like us, follow us, do all that stuff out there. We are considering, well, actually, I've got the ball rolling on live streaming at some point.
Yes.
So hopefully that will come up very soon. If you have any questions for us or comments, suggestions on topics, if you want us to go into more depth on a particular topic we've already covered, you can email us at thegeekestpodcast.com. And you can send us questions there. You can comment on our videos. We have a Twitter account as well. So at Biggest Geekus on Twitter. So there's lots of ways to get us some word on what you would like us to do or what you think about us.
Yep.
And we have a big list of different things, podcasts and YouTube stuff that we will have in the show notes on things we like. Go follow all those people. They're good. It's all good stuff.
Good stuff.
Ooh. I just yanked out my headphones because I'm a dork.
All right. +1 Dorcas.
Yes. And with all that said, this is Joe.
And I'm Randy.
And remember, if you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us.